Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be working on a little bit of flower bed cleanup here on the west side, and what that will include is trimming back some perennials, trimming shrubs and roses, raking, that sort of thing. We just started flower bed cleanup this week. It just kind of warmed up. Right now it's 41 degrees, but it's a little tiny bit breezy and the breeze is really chilly. It's supposed to warm up to 46 though, which is awesome. And our 10-day looks great. We're still dipping down into the 20s at night, but this is a great time to get out and start doing a little bit of cleanup. So this direction you can see our raised bed garden, which we need to spend some time cleaning out the raised beds in there, and I need to trim our climbing colette roses. They are so wild. We will do that a different day. What I'm gonna focus on mostly today is stuff that's on the ground. So we've got 3 Ambridge roses in here. You can kind of see what they look like. What we're gonna be doing is trimming them down to about knee height, and I'm gonna be removing all the leaves. We don't want to perpetuate any kind of disease or insects, so we're gonna get rid of all of that. We've got some daisies in here. I do have a butterfly bush. We're gonna wait to trim that until I start seeing growth later on. So that'll be a little bit, maybe quite a bit later. We've got a Hydrangea Standard, which we can trim today. And then going this direction, we really only have cleanup on this side, which we just started to really spend time developing this last year. So there's not a lot of big stuff yet, but I would like to trim our elderberry a little bit. We've got perennials down here. There's Russell, keep us company today. We've got all of these matted down perennials. We'll get those cut back and raked up. There's some dahlias I forgot to dig. I'm just gonna cut them back and see what happens. It's been fairly mild. They might come back. We've got roses here, and there's sedum, lady's mantle, iris I'll be trimming back as well. So you can just see what we're in for. It's just kind of a light cleanup. Really, there's not a ton. You guys, the other day, Paula and Bethany, it was such a nice day out here. They came out and they cleaned out all of our arborvitaes, because you know how on the interior sometimes they can get some browning leaves, needles and stuff in there. They just cleaned it all out and raked and cleaned underneath, so our arbs are starting off super fresh. That's just a good feeling. We've got more things down this way, you know, delphiniums that you can see the stakes where I had staked those up. We'll cut those back. Another butterfly bush that we will be leaving alone. And you do want to cut those back, but I wait until I see fresh growth, because sometimes I've had years where they've died all the way back down to kind of the base of the plant, and I've had to cut the whole thing back, and then they spring forth and they grow really fast and fill back in. But then there are other years where it's been a little bit more mild and I don't have to cut them back nearly as much. So anyway, it's good to wait until you start seeing those leaves bud out, and then you can see where the strongest sets of leaves are and cut it back to that point. But hey bud. But we've got more roses down here, some wild canes. And then when we get down toward the end, it does get a little bit busier. You know, there's their ornamental oregano, which if we get down in here, there's still some green growth in there. Look at that. Oh gosh, that smells good. Just roughing up an herb like that. Stand By Me lavender clematis we'll cut back. And then we've got our other shrub elderberry here, which I'm gonna take back on the back side, because you can see it's just running up against those arborvitaes. I don't want to cut it back too much because I want it to bloom this spring. If you cut it back at this point, you'll cut its blooms off. It blooms on old wood. So I'll save any major trimming for after bloom. After it's bloom time. We've got another hydrangea here and just a bunch of stuff. So hopefully, I'm hoping to make it just to the end of the line here, end of the brick walkway. Ugh, lady's mantle, it's looking rough. And back this direction, you can see I've got the Boscobel roses. I just posted a reel of what these looked like last year. Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. So pretty, and I've got 2 on order because I'd like to have a grouping of 5 in here. So I'm excited about that. But that's the only thing on this side we'll need to cut back, other than the very first flower bed on the other end. So we just like to take any opportunity when the sun is out and the wind isn't blowing really hard and do a little bit of cleanup. And if you just kind of keep after it and do a little bit at a time, it doesn't become an overwhelming job later on in the season. Okay, so I'm gonna go gather up my tools. For this job, I'll be using my pop-up bag and my little rake and my Felcos. I think that's pretty much it. Okay, a couple of things before we haul off into our project. I did want to show you the gloves I'm using, because I typically don't like to wear gloves, but it's chilly enough that I want to wear some. So these are my normal ones right here. But when I'm working with any kind of roses, these right here, and I don't even know what they're called. Maybe we can put the name or the number of what they are up on the screen. They're not technically rose gloves, but they work for roses really well while not feeling super bulky. Definitely bulkier than the other ones, but they protect my hands from the thorns. And I wanted to show you the tree hydrangea and where I'm going to be pruning it. So you can see the structure right now, the trunk right here. What we want to do, if we left it like this, it would put on new growth and it would become too heavy. It would start flopping everywhere. It happened to me not last year, but the year before. So last year I took it down quite severely. If you go into the canopy here, you can see where I cut it last year. There's a cut here, a cut here. I mean, it's like 18 inches away from where it branches out. There's another cut here and here. So what I will do is follow these nice strong stems down and probably cut just right above that, like the node right above where last year's cut was. And that way we'll have nice strong branching down here that can hold up our hydrangea. Anything that's weak like this, any weak or crossing stems, those go. So like this one right here, while there are some buds on it, I don't want that in there. That's gonna be trimmed out. Anything that's too flimsy. Or like in this case right here, we have a strong stem and a strong stem. And this is a fairly strong one too, and it did have a bloom. But this one is crossing this one. So I'm gonna cut that one completely off, but I'll leave this one and cut it right about here. I hope that makes sense. It's a pretty, it looks severe in the beginning. I have cut them even more severe than that. I feel like on tree hydrangeas, they can handle it and need it a little bit more. I think the rule of thumb for your hydrangeas in the ground is taking a third of it, like taking it down by a third, so that you maintain that strong network of branches. And I think it's also recommended to wait on hydrangea pruning, kind of like your buddleias, to where you start seeing buds come out. So you can see where the strongest set of buds are, the strongest branches. You can see which ones are alive and which ones aren't really well. So you can wait until that point as well. At this point though, I usually just try to clean them up when I'm out here as I have time to do it. It's not gonna hurt the plant at all. Okay, now let's get after it. Wanted to stop quick just to show you what this first rose looks like now that I'm done with it. I might even thin it down further. I left quite a few canes, and you can really take them down to just, you know, several really strong canes. But, you know, based on what this looked like before, really wild, really messy, and what they look like afterward, it's pretty stark difference. But you can see every cane that I have left, they each have their own space. You know, there's room around each one of these. They're not going to collide with one another. You know, I made sure like this one's going up, this one's going up as well, but they're kind of in different spaces. They're not going to grow in together, and they all just, they're leaving plenty of space for light and airflow. And both of those things are just so important in roses, just to have a healthy shrub. I mean, it helps reduce things like powdery mildew, black spot, insect pressure. And then if your plant is, you know, healthy, of course it's going to be way more productive. If the whole plant is receiving more sunshine and it's not choking itself out with just too much canopy, leaf canopy, you'll have way more blooms. I also stripped all the leaves off the plant. I didn't clean around the crown of the plant, you know, right above the soil surface really well. I'll do that later on, just because we are still fairly cold. Roses are pretty tough and they're pretty resilient, and I've cleaned mine out and cut mine back at various different times of the year with pretty much the same outcome. So I'm not super stressed about it, but I didn't spend a lot of time on that part. And you know, some people may say, you know, wait to clean out your garden until it warms up for pollinators, but there are pros and cons to everything. And our roses deal with aphid pressure and spider mites mainly. Spider mites are a big one. If we leave leaves down, there may be a few beneficials in there, but you better believe there's a lot of spider mite eggs in there as well. So getting those cleaned up and away from these plants before they have a chance to hatch and start infesting the rest of our garden is good. Also rodents. I was noticing under this first one, and I hope it's okay, but it's rocking a little bit. And there was a really soft, like entry little hole right underneath the crown of the plant. That could be where a rodent found a nice little warm home underneath all the leaves. So hopefully, I mean, everything looks okay and it's still attached to the ground. It's not pulling out, but we'll see. You can kind of see it right here, like where it's really soft. And if I stick my finger, like see how that plant, it's kind of rocking a little bit. There's a hole underneath that plant. So I'll come along here either today or tomorrow and add some extra, like just brown mulch on top. We use compost to top dress our flower bed, so I'll just use some of that just to bring up the soil level there around the plant. But anyway, just wanted to show you that before I proceed. I think the roses and the hydrangeas are the most technical pruning things we're doing today. Everything else we're just cutting back to the ground. All right, guys, I am wrapping it up for the day. It is time to go start dinner. We're starting to lose a little bit of light. Do you ever have those days where you feel like the projects you start, they're going a lot slower than they should be? Because that was me today. I did have to leave and go do a couple things right in the middle of the project, but I got a little more than half of it done, which is nice. I mean, it's progress. And I feel like what we did today hopefully gives you guys a good idea of what it takes to clean out this flower bed in particular. You know, we got to one of the hydrangea trees, several of the roses, and then a bunch of perennial cut back. So let's take a look. To start out, this flower bed looks so much better. I was very tempted to cut back the buddleia just to cut it back hard and get rid of the manginess on top, which honestly would be fine. I think even if I just cut it back by half, I might do that when I take after these climbing roses, but the rest of it looks really good. There's a couple of Roman chamomile down here, and they smell like bubble gum when you cut them back. They're so awesome. And then right underneath the Hydrangea Standard, there's some liatris that I didn't even have to cut back. I was able just to kind of rake it up. There's a sedum in that container. There is some fresh growth at the base, but the roses look a heck of a lot better than they did. And then I went over onto this side and just cut things back, raked them up. I didn't do a perfect job because, you know, the breeze is like bringing in other leaves, and I didn't really want to unearth the crown of all the roses completely, but it does look a lot better. Right down here, there's some heuchera. We'll see if they come back. Heuchera is kind of a hit and miss for us. There are a few varieties that come back pretty consistently. Appletini's a good one. Spearmint is a really good one. What is it? Crimson Curls does pretty good. The Black Pearl does great, but there are some that have just been a little bit marginal for us, and I don't know if it's a moisture thing or what, but we kind of almost treat them as annuals here. I left the stakes where I cut back dahlias and delphiniums, just so we knew that they were there. I mean, I don't know if they'll come back, but we'll see. Roses look a lot better. So there's 3 Royal Jubilees right in here. They bloom a really pretty, kind of a deeper pink and a nice scent. Iris in here that are cut back, and then Nepeta, Lady's Mantle, Salvia. There's some penstemon right back in here, the Midnight Masquerade. The little ajuga looks pretty. You can see some pink in there still. I did not touch the Caryopteris. We'll wait on that, just like the buddleia. And then just cleaned up and cut back in here. There's some asters, roses. These are the Alnwick rose. There are 3 of them in here, and more of the Caryopteris. And then there's Lady's Mantle, kind of some repeats of things. There's some phlox in here, ajuga, asters. That's where there's some delphiniums. And I made it to here. There's a Mary Rose, David Austin, right here. So I'll pick up right here and take off, and it's just basically a repeat of what I just did. Just kind of the same perennials, roses in here. It gets a little thicker right in this space, but I don't think it's going to take me too long. I plan to chip away at this over the weekend as I can steal some time out here. I like to keep all of my tools, like I'll keep them all in the gator so that they're just ready. When I'm ready to come out here, I don't have to gather anything up. It's just sitting there. And then, you know, I could go through at this point when I'm cleaning out and fertilize. At this point, we don't get like too much rain to where it would wash it all away, but we'll probably wait maybe 3 weeks or so, and then we're going to go around and give everything some fertilizer. So that will be next on the list after we get everything cleaned out. So anyway, guys, that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was maybe motivating. I get motivated watching people clean out flower beds, clean out anything really. It kind of makes me feel like I want to go do the same thing. So I hope it did that, or I hope you guys enjoyed watching. We will see you in the next video. Bye.